Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So this is a video, as you can see from the title, it's about the best seerah book. And the reason why I'm doing this is because, hey, life is short, right? And the vast majority of us, we're just gonna read probably one seerah book in our whole lives, maybe two. For most of us, maybe even none. But hey, if you're going to be reading one seerah book, I'd like you to read the best seerah book that is accessible to you. So I asked on Twitter about the top recommendations for a seerah book, and the vast majority suggested The Sealed Nectar, and in second place, the seerah by Martin Lings. I realized not too long after asking that question that the vast majority of those that have answered have either read one seerah book or none. I even asked my mom, who recommended The Sealed Nectar to me like 20 years ago, why she even recommended The Sealed Nectar. Was it due to some sort of a comparison? No, it was simply that she heard it was the best seerah book out there, and therefore she recommended it. So the vast majority of people that recommend books on seerah haven't compared them to anything else. So naturally what I did is I went through those books that were recommended and I started to compare them one to another. And finally I came to a conclusion as to what I believe the best book of seerah is. Now, the main issue with the vast majority of what's written on the topic of seerah is that they're either too short, and I mean, hey, if you want to learn about the Prophet, peace be upon him, in his life, you would be interested in the details, right? The other issue is a lot of them don't provide proper referencing, footnotes, and a lot of them don't provide a variety when it comes to the works that they're quoting. Now, in regards to The Sealed Nectar, the reason why it's easily the most popular book, at least in the English language, is because the author of The Sealed Nectar won an award in 1976. And due to that, for the longest time, it's been seen as the best book of seerah. But it has been 50 years, and you'd expect something in the past 50 years to surpass it, right? But technically, the best book of seerah is a traditional source, and it's Sirat ibn Hisham, simply due to the amount of details in that book. However, I would only recommend Sirat ibn Hisham for those that know the Arabic language and for those that have the ability to study the chains of narrations of each and every single report, which is, I mean, not the simplest of tasks, and yeah, so I wouldn't recommend it to the average reader. But what I would recommend is Mehdi Rizqallah's A Biography of the Prophet of Islam for several reasons. Oh, so it's, by the way, it's in 2 volumes, around 900 pages, and it ticks all the right boxes. It's heavily referenced, as you can see here below in the footnotes. And of course, that's where this book shines, because the author not only relies on Ibn Ishaq, but he relies on a vast number of sources, a huge variety, mashallah. It's not incredibly long like Salabi's book, which is 3 volumes long, and I think that's just way too much. And what I really like about this book is that he relies heavily on modern contemporary works that have studied the seerah as well. So he was able to make use of the Arabic works, but now you have it in English form. Also, the book isn't too expensive. I've seen high prices like on Amazon, but if you have an English bookstore around you and they supply Dar es Salaam books, then you should be able to pick this up for quite a cheap price. I picked mine up for something like $20 or something like that, maybe even a bit less. So just to give you like a bit of a taste, when we compare The Sealed Nectar and Mehdi Rizqallah's book, you have an issue with referencing. with the sealed nectar. So here's an example. So on page 106, it says, now it's talking about the persecution that the Muslims faced in Mecca. And it says here, the uncle of Uthman bin Affan used to wrap Uthman up in a mat of palm leaves and set fire under him. When you go into the footnote, it says, Rahmatun lil Alameen, volume 1, page 57. And that's it. It just provides you with a reference right there, and doesn't go into any detail. On the other hand, in Mahdi Ras'allah's book, it says, Uthman bin Affan's uncle would wrap him up in a mat made from palm leaves and then smoke him. Which is, I mean, it is a bit of a clunky translation. Anyway, in the footnotes, Rahmatun Alameen, the same source, volume 1, page 52, he adds, however, we could not trace out Mansur Puri's source. He saves you the time. So Mahdi Ras'allah saved me the time of going back to Mansur Puri's work to see what his source was by simply saying that Mansur Puri did not provide a source. So what you'll find a lot of is Mahdi Ras'allah providing the gradings of pretty much every single thing that he's quoting. So those are the pros, and the cons aren't too many, but for example, sometimes he will include inauthentic material due to his reliance on other scholars that have assumed that some reports are authentic when in reality they're not. But I mean, hey, that happens with the vast majority of authors. It's something that is quite hard to escape. And unfortunately, the translation in some sections is a bit clunky. However, those things don't take away from this very important book, and hands down, it is the best book in seerah for the English-speaking audience. And that's all I have time for today. Inshallah, you found this video beneficial. If you haven't read the book, I strongly recommend it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.